my name's Travis Dickinson, and you're watching Atheist Edge. And you should watch Atheist Edge, no matter if you're Southern Baptist or a Christian or an atheist.
Okay, so Atheist Edge, Chris, Kyle. So we had Kyle on for a later segment, but Jim was like, hey, let's warm him up with a really nice race-based episode because we're just really great with our guests. So Kyle, first of all, thank you for being on, and we'll have another show with you later. So we just watched a video with the rapper Logic talking about how race, how he gets viewed being a person of mixed black-white heritage, and how that kind of has affected people's perceptions of him and going into his music career in the hip-hop industry.
So you said you were mixed heritage?
Yeah, black and white.
Black and white,
Yeah,
okay, okay. Mm-hmm.
I feel like I've seen a lot of things differently. Do you know what I mean? Like kind of not being accepted by both races at one time or accepted by one more than the other.
You see things differently because other people require that of you.
So Kyle, what was your initial reaction to what he was talking about? Did anything he was saying kind of ring true? Can you see where he was coming from?
I will say that he, just from like even my own personal perspective in the black community, yeah, we are, there's outside racism, so like white versus black or others versus black, but then there's also the inner racism, which is black versus black, black versus light skin, black versus mixed, in which case he would be mixed. There's definitely a lot of that. He brings one perspective to the mix. While, like I said, there's others, but you would never know unless you were in those particular predicaments.
Yeah, there's a lot coming from the outside looking in, because I'm obviously just the whitest person that ever lived. So there's a lot of stuff going on here that I just don't deal with on an everyday basis because of how I look. And I noticed I'm not super familiar with Logic's work, but just looking at him, this is the first, I don't even realize he was mixed race, because he's very light skinned. He could definitely pass for white in a lot of situations. So going into hip hop, I could see where he probably has a unique perspective. One is being because of mixed race and being able to speak to those issues, but also being someone, I imagine that there's a lot of white people who are going into hip hop that is a traditionally African American art form, where there's an issue of, okay, what do you have to contribute here? Are you latching on? There's a long history of the white community taking, like between jazz and rock and roll, and taking all these old things that started in the African American community and now saying, this is ours now, and we're going to kind of take something that's already established and turn it into something watered down, suburban, cool for the masses, kind of, sort of. I don't know if you're any familiar with Logic's music or if you're aware of any of his stuff, but...
Yeah, so just this video was actually surprising to me because I thought he was just a light-skinned guy. I didn't realize that he was actually half white, half black. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, which is...
Otherwise, you're just there.
Yeah.
Right?
But I like it. I think it also does give me a unique perspective on things, especially being black and white and in this country.
In your music, does it allow you or does it force you to say, I want to speak to more than one group? Is that even possible?
No, it's 100% possible, but I think as long as certain sects within that group actually care to listen to you.
There's only one song that I know from him, and it's gang-related. And I guess when we look at hip-hop in general, why hip-hop was created, like I said, it was an art. It was about the raw emotions. It was about the feeling and sharing yourself. And that's what it was about. And then as time progressed, that's when we started having a bunch of garbage artists who came in. They're like, I just want to make one hit so I can be a millionaire and call it a day. Mm-hmm. And because we've allowed a lot of that stuff to flood in, it kind of deteriorates all the good quality hip hop that we appreciate. So in reference to Logic coming in, that's great. Other people, to me, that's what I like about it. Isn't, I guess what I like about the United States or just the music industry in general, it doesn't require, you don't have to be a certain race to be able to do whatever it is. If you are good at it, if you feel the music, if you have the emotion, and you're not going for, I guess, what's your intention? So if your intention is, hey, I want to be good, or hey, I really want to reach these kind of people because this is what I believe in, great. If you're like, I just want to be a millionaire because I just want to, smoke weed, fuck bitches, get drunk, then that's what you're going to get.
So it's kind of, ultimately speaking, like whatever the initial reaction is, I would hope that, ultimately speaking, if you're talented, if you have something actual good to say and you aren't just following trends or just being really, really superficial about stuff, hopefully that'll shine through whatever race you are, whatever gender you are, whatever you have coming in, just from people's first initial impressions of you.
Yeah, as crazy as it sounds, I mean, most people, we have I don't know if you've ever saw the Childish Gambino, This Is America, and how they have you look at one thing, it's like, oh yeah, you have these people dancing in the fire and all that, but then you see all this stuff in the background. I feel like they're using more racism as a way to cover up what's really going on.
Yeah, it was definitely that, because that was coming around, if I remember correctly, that was coming right around the time that stuff was going on, like in Ferguson, and we have all these very high-profile police shootings, and the African American community was feeling very like that was when Black Lives Matter was coming up, and there was a feeling of, hey, people aren't paying enough attention to these kind of systemic issues that have really been going on for decades. But now we have these high-profile instances coming in, and that's where that song really spoke to what a lot of people were feeling at that time, and he really expressed it very artfully.
With hip hop, there was almost like reverse racism, where people would be like, "Oh, you're not good because you look white," and then somebody would be like, "Oh, but he's black though," and they'll be like, "Oh, he's cool then."
So
like,
therefore,
what?
okay.
Yeah,
Right,
that's
right.
like, but that doesn't even make sense.
Right.
Like, that's so ignorant. You know what I mean? But those are the things. Like, once you stop caring, that's a big deal. When you stop really, truly caring what other people think, or at least the people that aren't important, the people who are ignorant and just make such just harsh statements and things like that, when you put that out of your mind, you become much more happier.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I said, because you can use it in that regard, you can use it even in the music industry, because it's, there was even another artist, but more movie-centric, where they said about black people in black movies, and how everyone looks at black movies like, oh yeah, they're funny, they're okay, but they're not great compared to like a movie where there's a white star, and black people are trying to break that trend and actually come up with amazing movies like Girls Trip, so on and so forth, that kind of goes beyond the standard, oh yeah, we're just going to be funny. It's like, hey, we actually have a lot more talent, we want to be able to express that same way everyone else is kind of branching out, trying different things. We can do the same thing. Instead of everyone looking at black folks like, oh yeah, we only do rap, we only do R&B, we only do hip hop, and then comedies. It's like, well, we're a lot more than that.
Are there any situations like in the entertainment industry, I know, especially in movies, there's been a lot of talk about representation as far as Oscar nominees, and there's the same, in certain years, there's been a same spate of white people in all categories. Some years are better than others. There were years that, Denzel Washington finally won, Halle Berry won. There was talk of that kind of evening the playing field. But even recently, I think in the last couple of years, there was some pushback from, okay, now we're going back to just white people. Are there areas that you feel like the African American community is still underrepresented in popular entertainment that you would like to kind of see addressed in some fashion?
I mean, I've never really been the type to follow a lot of social media. Personally, I would just love to see everything a lot more diverse.
Well, let me put it this way. Do you think that, let's say you're a Academy Award, you're part of the group that makes those nominations, and you have a lot of really, really good performances in a given year, so if you're having a hard time choosing the nominees, do you think it would be a good thing or a bad thing to pick an African American nominee over a white nominee just for the sake of getting a diversity candidate in there?
See, that brings up like a whole nother stem of issues, because now you're talking about integrity, and it's like, okay, are we being fair by selecting this person, or are we just trying to be I feel like we're just babying others. And that's pretty much how I see the United States nowadays anyway. It's just we're babying, we're tailoring to everybody. It's like, oh, well, we need to include all these people, we need to include all these people, which kind of destroys the whole fact that people are actually putting in work to actually do something. Back in the day, people busted their ass to get where they are, and people respected that. Now people are like, oh, well, it's this white person, or it's this black person, or it's this, or it's that. In actuality, it's like, okay, well, are they putting the blood, sweat, and tears? Are they working smarter? Are they working, doing whatever it is to move forward? And to me, that's what matters versus someone. I mean, honestly, if I was to hit a Grammy and they gave it to me because I was black, not gonna lie, part of me would be like, yes, bitch, I want that. But at the same time, it's like I didn't earn it. But that's how I was raised. I was raised to bust my ass to get what I get.
It seems like you brought up a kind of a good point, because it seems like it's a hard balance to reach, right? Because you want to believe that in the United States, the right amount of hard work can get you where you want to go in life. But even if you are a non-white individual and you work really hard and you get into that college, or you work really hard and you get that award nomination, there's a group of people who are still going to say, they're going to ignore all your hard work and say, oh, you got in this because you are a affirmative action hire, or they just want to get a more diverse spate of nominees in there or something like that. So it may just be something that has to be resolved with time, where hopefully, I really hope there's a time then we can kind of get over a lot of race stuff in this country. But it's taken a few hundred years to get where we are, so it's probably not going to happen anytime soon. But
yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, it seems to be all about the mindset, and yeah, I mean, really, it's just about the mindset and what people think and what people believe, and what they believe outside, they're allowing to bleed into the business, and those limited beliefs is what's going to. They're like, oh, I'm successful because I'm doing this. Go ahead, great, and they keep doing it, and they think they're being successful, and then they eventually fail because they decided not to change. As times change, as people change, they're not changing.
so kind of getting back to what we were talking about earlier, where we're talking about forms of entertainment that originated kind of in the African American community and then kind of were spread out all over and became hugely popular among all races. Do you think there's any benefit to having a art style where the African American community or Latino community or any of these communities can say, hey, this is our own, you guys can't have this? Or do you kind of feel more like, hey, good music is good music, good art is good art, it should be accessible to anyone?
I mean, both answers. I mean, I don't think that should be a one or the other. I think there's opportunity to have our own stuff, but then still everyone have access.
Sounds good to me. So Kyle, thanks for joining us. If you have anything you want to plug here for the good people watching?
As I have my own little business, it's called, Say Yes to Yourself, and it's about empowering others, empowering yourself through saying yes to yourself for self-development, self-growth, self-care. You can check it out. It's Warner Coaching Consulting on Facebook.
All right, there you go. Thanks for watching, everyone.